Greetings, Kingdom family. It's your brother Elijah again, coming to bring you the spiritual mental aptitude that we need in these last days. This lesson is going to hopefully fortify your mind and mentality concerning spirituality. There's a reason why our Father gave us our spiritual armor in order to put on every single day, in order to make it through this rough storm. And ladies and gentlemen, Kingdom family, we are beginning this storm. But we have the helmet. Think about that real quick. We have the helmet of salvation. The helmet of salvation that we must put on. We put that on to continuously think and know in the hopes of our salvation, because this is not it. We are to be saved out of this quote unquote pit that we walk through. As a matter of fact, that's the theme of our lesson today, that the light will shine in the darkest, deepest recesses of the pit of the soul, because that sometimes is what we need. When we feel the despair, when we feel the disdain, the hate, the wrath, the rage through individuals, because remember, all these entities, as stated in Galatians 5, these entities have wills and emotions. These wills and emotions are destitute of the Father's light, the light that resides in you right now. The light that they wish that they had. That's why they hate you. That hate, wrath, rage that you can see performed through other individuals is just that. That projectile, or that projecting, is something that wants to project into you, into the inside of you. Remember we stated, or I stated, not your scriptures, the Father works from the inside out. Darkness works from the outside in. It wants to get into you. Sometimes it finds a vessel that it can inhabit, and that vessel comes after you. This is just the reality of the situation. Our job is to first and foremost make sure our light stays inside of us through the Father who gives it. That light must be continuously burning at all times, firing on all cylinders. That darkness is a darkness that wants to encapsulate the exterior atmosphere as well as your interior atmosphere. It wants to encapsulate everything. As you can see right now, darkness is on the horizon, but we are the lights that shine in this darkness, as we stated in our last lessons. So we're gonna go into a lot of these things today. We're gonna go into the mind, the unbound mind. Do any of us really understand what the mind is? We're gonna go into that. We're gonna go into the different aspects of the spiritual parts of the mind. We're gonna go into the interconnectivity of the spiritual mind, because this is something that a lot of even scholars don't understand. No one understands the mind but the Father who created it. That's the one that he connects with in your prayer sessions. That is the one that has created everything, and we're going to talk about him as well today. Okay, so that being said, so we have a good amount of lesson today, and it's going to focus on all of the body, on all of the Father, on all of the Spirit and or spirits that might be saying something different to you in your life. All right, so we're going to go through that. Without further ado, we're going to go into our prayers. We have to invite the Father, of course, into our session today, and then we're going to get to it. Father, I invite you. I invite your only begotten Son, YESHUA, the Messiah, our King, the Shepherd. I pray that you invite all of the lost sheep, every single one of them. I pray that you relieve every single one of the hurt, the pain, the disdain, the bottomless pit of the soul. I pray that you clean these areas up in preparation for your son's arrival. I thank you for everything that you've ever done. I thank you for all your creation. I pray for your body, Father. I pray that you continuously inhabit them with your light, which shines through this darkness and is translated into the kingdom of your only begotten Son. And I do this in his name. Amen. The light that shines in the darkness, that's where we're at. We need to be rest assured, though, that the Father's always with us. When you have time, please memorize Psalm 23. Psalm 23. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil, for you are with me. We are always walking in multiple dimensions, multiple spiritual realms. This is the reason why we walk in the darkness, but we could walk outside and it's light. The light's inside of us, the light's outside of us. But that darkness that we walk through is something that is pertinent. It's something that is real. Sometimes you could even palpate it. So thick. When it comes after you, and you know how it comes after you. We talked about where this evil realm resides in human souls. Those human souls that come after you, look into their eyes, look at their actions, and then use your discernment. The Father gives it to you. If you don't feel that you have enough discernment, ask. Go into the book of James, chapter 1, and it'll tell you. Ask in faith, and he will give it to you without anything wavering, though. Okay? So, yes. So, the light that shines. Think about the mind. If we go right into our scriptures, if you open to Proverbs really quick, Proverbs 23 and 7, and it says, for as he thinks in his heart, so is he or she. What are you thinking about? Because as you think, so are you. Are you worrying? Is your mind in despair? Is your mind in devastation? I mean, I know that we have certain situation that has probably rendered us inept. We've been caused to be devastated in these situations that we're going through right now. Again, ladies and gentlemen, the Father will not ever give you what you cannot handle. He's with you. Our shepherd is with you. And unfortunately, we must go through this storm. The reason why I am so adamant about this channel and adamant about the spiritual realms is because the spiritual realms were first. They work only because the enemy might be quote unquote dormant right now. Doesn't mean he hasn't been there. Doesn't mean he has not been watching. And I don't say this to scare you. I say this to prepare you. Okay? Prepare your soul, because that is what he's after. He doesn't care about the tangible bunnies. Yes, he could gain souls with offering these things, but he doesn't care about money. Okay? He cares about the Father's treasure, and the Father's treasure is your everlasting soul. He wants you to be where he is, which is in complete condemnation. We're not going to have that happen. Okay? So today we're going to go into that. We're going to go into the back alleys of the spiritual realms, because you know that we must do this. But we're also going to talk about the light that encapsulates and or pushes down all the darkness. Remember, in the beginning, when in doubt, go in the beginning. The Father separated light from the darkness. He separated all that misery, all that hate, wrath, rage that dwells in human souls. He separated it. It's not supposed to be inside of you. That is not of the Father, and you know it. Okay, so we're going to have a very eventful day, and we're going to start with good old Job. Why not, right? Okay, so good old Job. Let's go into Job 33. Let's see what Job has to say here. Job, another one of our great prophets, which also had a lot of mishap in his existence. And he is used as an example. Our scriptures are an example for us, because we are not the only ones going through whatever we're going through. And whatever all of you all are going through out there, I'm praying for you, because I need them, and I know you need them as well. We all do. Okay, so Job 33. Let's see here. Job 33. And let's see what we have from old Job. Job 33 and 28. Okay, Job 33 and 28. And it states, he will deliver his soul from going into the pit, and his life shall see light. Lo, these things work God oftentimes with man, to bring back, please underline, bring back his soul from the pit. Quick question, where is the pit? Is it something that is outside of us? Is it something that encapsulates us? Is it something that drives the internals of a man? This is a very interesting statement, because we know that if the pit was hell, you would not be coming back out of there. There is a situation where your soul can be pulled back out of a quote-unquote pit, spiritual pit, the deepest recesses of the soul. Maybe some of us has been there already. Maybe some of us have looked into the eyes and or the souls of those who are there now. Have you seen it? Think about it, because this is going to be the shaping of our lesson today. Where does that pit reside? Because we know that the opening of the supernatural pit, Revelation 9, could possibly already be happening, and we know what resides in that pit. Think about that. Okay, let's go into Psalms. So remember, the pit and the light that shines in the pit. This is going to be our theme today. Psalms 28. Let's see what Psalms 28 says. Let's see here. Psalms 28. And we're going to start at the beginning. And of course, this is a Psalm of David. And it states, unto thee I will cry, O Lord, my rock. Be not silent to me, lest if thou be silent, I become like them that go down to the pit. Complete separation from the Father. Have we met anybody like this in our lives? Individuals that are so far from the Father, so far from the light, that they end up falling into a pit where they cannot see and or acknowledge the Father any longer, until the Father pulls their soul out of that pit from their acknowledgement, no one else's. They have to know where they're at. They have to know they need the help. Therefore, those individuals can come out of the pit, and it is the Father that provides their relinquishment from that deep recess that might reside inside the soul of men. Think about that one. So where does the pit reside? We always have to think about this, right? Where is it? Outside? Inside? Let's look for a couple of clues. Stay in Psalm, go over to 40. Let me see Psalm 40. This is a very interesting passage. Let's listen to this one. Psalm 40 and 2, and it states, he brought me up also out of a horrible pit, out of the miry clay, please underline miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock and established my goings. Didn't we just talk about that rock? The pit inside of miry clay. What is miry clay alluded to in our scriptures? The human body. A pit inside of miry clay. Who controls what goes on in the internal spiritual space we call the human body. Well, we know if we go back to the beginning, the Father created the soul before he put it in a body. We know that in Jeremiah, it states that he knew us first, before we were put inside our mother's womb, Jeremiah 1. So, what's going on here? That pit that many fall into is a pit that's also controlled by a dark entity. Again, we're going to Revelation 9. There's a king in there, in that pit, that controls that darkness. And where is that darkness inside of an individual? We're reading it. Okay, let's go back to Job. Let's go to Job 17. Let's see what we have here. Job 17 and 16. Yes, indeed. Okay, Job 17 and 16, and it says, they shall go down to the bars of the pit. Please circle bars. When our rest together is in the dust. Bars in a pit, kind of like a prison, kind of like a mental prison, because we know the pit could very well be in the mind. Mind is always synonymous with the soul. Where are your thoughts? We just opened our lesson with, so as a man thinks, so is he, correct? Where are your thoughts? Are your thoughts held hostage? Very interesting, because we know we don't understand the mind except he who created it. This lesson's going to be very intuitive. Mental pit. Very interesting. Let's go into Psalms 142 and 7. So we'll go back over to Psalms 142. And let me see here. Nice one. Psalms 42 and 7, and it says, bring my soul out of prison, that I may praise thy name. Thy righteous shall compass me about, for thou shalt deal with bountifully with me. That's interesting. Bring my soul out of prison. Which prison? Where? Is it a physical prison? Is it a mental prison where the soul resides? Very interesting statements. Luke 8:31. This is why this is very beneficial and proficient, that we know where our thoughts go. When we are daydreaming, when things are coming in and out, filtering through our perceptions, we need to know what those are. We're going to talk about what to do in that situation as well. Okay, so Luke 8:31. Let's see what Luke has here. Luke 8:31. Okay, now we know this story. This story has to do with the legion. We're talking about the pit now. Okay, the pit doesn't always have to do with men. The pit is a superficial place. The pit is a supernatural place. The pit has entities. How can those entities get accessed? Let's see. Luke chapter 8, verse 30, and we know the story. And YESHUA asks, saying, what is thy name? He's talking to the demons here. And they said, we are legion, because many devils were entered into him. Now, these are devils inside of a man now. Listen, let's go to 31. And they besought him that he would not command them to go out into the deep, the abyss. Their consciousness, their mind, their wills, remember, they are thinking beings. That thing that encapsulates them, their soul, they did not want to go into a pit, into an abyss. Where is this abyss? We know that if we allow our minds to cascade and start to think about put our minds in places that they shouldn't be, where do we go? We've all been there. Depression. When depression comes, feels like your whole life is coming to an end. It encapsulates you, encapsulates your mind. You can't think, you can't work, you can't love. These are things that are real and true. And it's because sometimes we allow our minds to go into these places where we shouldn't be, where we shouldn't go. And what did we just read? The Father pulls you out of that situation, pulls you out of that mental situation. And this is what the meaning of our lesson is today. All right, so we have that mental pit. If we go down a little bit to verse 35 in Luke, it says, then they came out to see what was done, and they came out to see Yeshua, and found the man out of whom the devils were departed, sitting at the feet of Yeshua, clothed and in his right mind. Prison of the mind. Can we get there? We all have the aptitude to get there. Do you want to be there? And do you know the individual that could get you out of there? This is what we need to be thinking about. The helmet. Remember, the helmet encapsulates the mind. The helmet encapsulates the mind in the hopes of salvation. Therefore, if you find yourself in this situation, you think about the helmet. You think about who can save you. Salvation. Ephesians 6. We're going to go into it at the end of this lesson. Genesis 5. Actually, Genesis 6, 5. Okay? So let's see. So we're thinking about the imaginations, right? All right. So that's going to be the theme. So let's think about what was happening, because it stated that the coming of the Son of Man, which is Yeshua, second coming, or the revealing, rather, it'll be like the days of Noah. What was going on in the days of Noah? Complete darkness, gene editing, darkness encapsulating the minds and the hearts of men. This is the reason why the Father had to start all over. It was so destitute. The darkness was in so many souls. He had no choice but to start over. Are we there now? Let's see. Genesis 6:5. And it states, and God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of his thoughts, of his heart, which is the mind, was only evil continually. Who was in his thoughts? Where was his thoughts? Was his thoughts on the Father, the kingdom? Or was his thoughts being encapsulated by the same evil darkness that encapsulates minds today? I'll leave that up to you to figure it out. So what are we to do with the imaginations? We just saw here in Genesis that there were imaginations. Were these imaginations actually entities trying to become one with the organism? Let's go through the lesson. Let's figure it out. Let's go into 2 Corinthians 10:5. 2 Corinthians, let me see here. 10:5, and let's see what we have. Actually, we start with 4, and it states, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. Please circle carnal. But mighty through God the Father, pulling down the strongholds. We know what strongholds are. Strongholds of the mind. Let's go to 5. Casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. Right here it tells you, what are we supposed to do that they were not doing at the times of Noah? They weren't casting down these imaginations. They weren't bringing themselves into the obedience of Yeshua, Christ. Should we be doing that today? Most definitely. Is this what keeps our mind out of the pit? Most definitely. We just read it. Okay? So this is something that we have to completely and constantly ponder, because Our king has already won. This is the reason why this was not stated in the days of Noah. We didn't have the king then. We had the father in the kingdom, yes. The king was also there in spiritual form. But now we have the new creation, and to bring into obedience everything that is in him, everything that he encapsulates. And it starts with the mind. The mind is what we must start to control and have better perception about in these last days. All right, perfect. Cast down those imaginations. Well, those imaginations come from where? Do we just come up with them? Does a man just sit down and say, I want to do this, this, and that to hurt this individual? I don't think so. Let's go into the book of Jude, the small book right before Revelation, which the book of Jude alludes to the evil entities that were back in the days of Noah and now. Jude has a prophecy dictated by Enoch, which is stated in the same book. And it says that Enoch prophesies about these entities. If you read the book of Enoch prophesies about evil entities, unseen entities, the reason why individuals act in the fashion that they do. And it's not because they just think this up. It's because they are in a mental state that has been encapsulated by darkness. This is the reason why we must every single day fortify ourselves with that helmet. Because that helmet, that salvation, that thought brings us into the obedience of Christ. Okay? Perfect. So we have Jude. Let's go to Jude 1:8. And it states, likewise, these filthy dreamers, please underline dreamers, defile the flesh, despise dominion, and speak evil of dignities. So we have something here that dreams, filthy dreams, sawnings. So these dreams come from another entity. These dreams come from another place and start to inhabit and align themselves with the thoughts of men. This is where these things come from. This is what was happening in the days of Noah. Okay? People were aligning themselves with the dark forces, with the dark mindsets that are on earth today. Remember Genesis 6. Go back there when you have a chance. There were tyrants, those giants, in the days then and now. After the flood, what do you think is remaining of those giants and or evil entities? Their thoughts, their wills, and their emotions. They're on the earth today, and they encapsulate men today. Right? So always think about the mind. What are the thoughts going into the mind? Remember in the book of John where it states, test the spirits to see that if they are of the Father. Why? Because the spirits, you cannot see them, but you can perceive them through your perception. Okay? Through the perception that the Father and his kingdom gives you. Yes? This is what we're talking about today. This is the reason why many individuals, you can look at them and say, this person doesn't act like a human being. It's possible that their thought process might not be. Finish reading Jude and you'll figure that one out. So we have those filthy dreams, filthy thinkers that become yours. Hopefully not yours or mine. But they are there. They come in, they work through individuals like a filter. Let's go into the book of Romans. Romans 2:16. Let's see what Romans has. Romans 2:16. And let me see. And it states, in the day when God shall judge the secrets of men by YESHUA the Messiah, according to my gospel. Where are the secrets of men? They have to be inside of them. They have to be those that were thought about. Where do they reside? Who conjures them up? Are these secrets in line with dark entities? Something we have to think about. Hopefully, we do not go there, but there are minds that do. Stay in Romans. Let's go to 2:19. 19, let me see. And it states, and you are confident that thou yourself is a guide of the blind, a light, please circle light, of them which are in the darkness. Same thing. You're the light to relieve the blind who are in darkness. Inside. Okay? The gospel, the reason the gospel was meant to be spread is because it is the light that shines through the darkness that you can see sometimes piercing through eyelids. I know we've all seen it. Okay? Something that transcends everything that we believe, everything that we've been taught. When you see these entities and they start to manifest, or you see these individuals that you believe are of human counterparts, they start to manifest on you. You see something else. Even for a split second. It's not like you can press a rewind button. There is no rewind button. But what you saw, you did see. These things are eminence. These things are here. There's no reason to play the willful ignorant game. Like, oh, well, no, that's just in a movie and a show. It is not. Spiritual realms were first. The spiritual realms still are active today. And it's our job to learn how to fight in the physical and in the spiritual as well. So the light that shines in the dark. Let's go back into Psalms 88. Let's see what happens here. Psalms 88. And hopefully, like I stated before, you don't have to stop that much anymore while you navigate through the book of light. Okay? I hope that you all have been reading your Psalms one a week, because they will help us in these times. So Psalms 88. Let's see here. And 4. Okay, 88 and 4. Actually, let's start at 3. And it states, for my soul is full of troubles. Haven't we all been there? And my life draws nigh to the grave. Let's go to 4. I am counted with them that go down to the pit. I am as a man that has no strength. You remember those days? Complete despair, complete worry, not putting your faith in the Father and his kingdom to save you out of that pit. If any of us are in that pit today, I pray to the Father that he relieves you, sends his Son, the brightest light of us all, in order to remove you and remove the blindness from your mind and bring you back into the kingdom of his glorious light. Even for us that need to find that light and stay in that light, this is for you as well. I am also praying that you continue your path laid down in front of you towards that light, because we know that light is here. We also know that darkness resides and darkness will be judged. But until then, we must be the light in the darkness. Perfect. Let's go into Proverbs. Proverbs, what do I have here? 112. So we'll go there. Proverbs 112. Let's see here. This is the reason of the lesson today, because many of us are still not fully understanding the power that darkness has. The power of the rulers in that darkness, because that darkness is controllable. That darkness where these evil entities reside are real. We cannot see them. We can, through discernment, feel them though. We need to use our spiritual senses to know exactly the situation that we're in and how to defeat the situation when it arises. Okay, Proverbs, let's go with 112. Let me see here. Okay, and it states, let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down to the pit. This is interesting because we see people are swallowed alive, still living, and the pit still active. This is interesting because if not one of us, all of us has seen a glimmer of the feeling of being swallowed alive in this pit. Might come from a loved one, or so they might say. Might come from a parent. Might come from the devil himself. But maybe you just didn't know it was him. This is the reason why the Father is revealing. This is the reason why in 2 Thessalonians 2, it states, wickedness will be uncovered, revealed, for our benefit, for us to know that, wow, is that what that was? Okay, now it's time for me to strap up. Now it's time for me to put everything on and keep it on. Armor of light. Okay, Ecclesiastes 10:8. Ecclesiastes, let's go to 10 and 8. And let's see what the teacher has to say. After Proverbs, yes, okay, the preacher. Ecclesiastes 10 and 8. And it states, he that digs a pit shall fall into it, and whoever so breaketh an hedge, a serpent shall bite him. Now this is interesting. Remember in Job chapter 1, what is stated there? When the enemy wanted to gain permission to test Job, what did the enemy say to the Lord? You have placed a hedge around him. Protection. Is this protection available or imminent today? Of course it is. This is why it states if you step outside the bounds of that protection, you'll be bitten by a serpent. This is what Satan wants for you. He wants you to step outside of the Father's protection for you so he can get you. Remember the snares in the darkness. We are protected in that darkness. Watch out for the serpents, because some of the serpents are running around right now in human form. Okay, prepare, watch out, take heed about the snake bites. So let's go with, of course, go to Job 1:10 when you have a chance. And this tells you about the hedge of protection, the light of protection. It's funny because that same light of protection was the same protection that Adam and Eve had in the garden. You remember that? And who was there to bite them? Okay. Let's go over to Job 3:5. So we'll stay in Job and go to 3. Let me see what Job has here. And Job knew everything about the light as well as the darkness. He knew them both because he was placed there in order for us to gain more knowledge and edification about what he went through, about what we go through. Okay, so Job 3. Let me see what I have here. 3 and 5. All right, let me see. And it states, let the darkness and the shadow of death, please underline shadow of death, stain it. Let a cloud dwell upon it. Let the blackness of the day terrify it. Job knew that the shadow of darkness was there. Psalms 23 knows that we walk through that darkness. We need to know that as well. Because when these things start to encapsulate, when these things start to put the blinders on, when they start to put a false helmet over our eyes for us not to see the truth, we need to know that that darkness is there. Okay? We need to forbid the enemy. We need to rebuke the enemy and all evil off of every single one of us, out of all of our souls and minds, because we're going to need the perfect amount of clarity right now. And I'm talking about right now is at a point where we all know, those that know have to know right now that we need to fight. We need to fight this darkness right now. Very, very good. Let's go into, well, actually, hold on one second. Let me see something. I put something here. Let me see if I skipped it over. Hope I didn't. Let me see. All right. Okay. Stay in Job 3:5. I'm sorry, stay in Job 3. Go to verse 8 real quick. Listen to this. And it states, let them curse it, that cursed day, who are ready to raise up their mourning. Now, this is funny. The reason I chose this is because people will watch this and say, who could raise the mourning? But this word mourning, if you look it up, it's H3882. H3882, which means a serpent. Now, that's interesting. Let those curse a day who will raise their mourning. Could it be that a serpent gets raised in that darkness? Could it be? Where is the darkness? Where does it reside? What controls the darkness? These are things that are real. These are things that are now. Think about that one. Let's go back into Psalms 23:4. And please, when you all get a chance, memorize this psalm. I say this psalm upon my rising every single morning and upon going to sleep. I would instruct or institute all of you to do the same. Okay, so Psalms, let's see, 23. Let me see here. 23:4, right? So this connects with the passage in Job. Yes, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff comfort me. Underline that word evil. I will fear no evil. So where does the evil reside? Where does the serpent reside? Where is the darkness? Where is the pit? Interesting stuff. Acts 26:18. Go into the book of Acts right quick. 26:18. Let's see here. And it states, to open their eyes and to turn them from darkness to light, from the power of Satan to the power of God, that they may receive forgiveness of sins and inheritance among them which are sanctified by faith that is in me. Well, power of light, power of darkness. Who resides in the darkness? We just read it. What does that darkness reside? Is it around you? Is it in you? Satan works from the outside in. He wants to have that spot where he can inhabit inside of you. We're reading it right here. It's my job to expose him and what his tricks and tactics are for you to know. Because when you feel these emotions start to creep in, when you start feeling them in the back of your neck, in the back of your peripheral vision, and you don't know what's going on, know that your scriptures know what's going on. And it's our job to expose all his devices. Very good. So the power of light, power of darkness. Let's go into Isaiah 24. Isaiah 24 and 21. Let's see, Isaiah 24 and 21. And let's see what Isaiah talks about those being inhabited. Because it was around then, it was around since the beginning. Let's see here, Isaiah 24 and 21. Let me see here. Okay, and it states, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall punish the host of the high ones. Please circle hosts that are on high, and the kings of the earth that are upon the earth. They shall be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit. In the end, let me ask you a question, Kingdom. In the end, will those be gathered in a physical pit? Will it be a spiritual pit? And where is that pit today? We need to think about that. The host. Host of who? Hosts of heavenly ones. Those that reside in heavenly places, as stated in Ephesians 6. Darkness that resides in those unseen heavenly places. They'll be punished. The ones who are inhabited by this darkness will be gathered and punished as well. Make sure this is not us. Continue our sanctification processes, thoughts, salvation, and this will take us where we need to go. All right, so we have that. We have the inhabited vessels. Let's see what Matthew says about the darkness. Where does darkness go? Because we could just be talking about it. We've already started this lesson with where it might be. Let's see what Matthew says. Let's go to Matthew 6 and 22. Okay, let's see, 6. And it states, the light of the body is the eye. Eye is indicative of the spirit. If therefore thine eye be single, which means clear, thy whole body shall be full of light. Let's go to 23. But if thine eye be evil, can anyone have an evil eye? Thy whole body shall be full of darkness. Please circle whole. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is the darkness? This is talking about the spirits that reside in the soul. How great can the darkness be? Is it a drop? Is it an ounce? Is it a gallon? Unmeasurable. This is in the spiritual realms, ladies and gents. How great is it? How evil is an individual? Maybe how evil they want to be. Very interesting. Who searches the hearts and the minds of men? I think we know. How great is the darkness, right? Let's go into, let me see, Luke 22:53. Let me see what Luke has to say here. Luke 22:53. And it states, now this is Yeshua talking, when I was daily with you in the temple, you stretched forth no hands against me. But this is your hour and the power, please circle power, of darkness. So the people that loved him now want to kill him. Do you know anyone like this? Or anyone who looks at you like this? Look into the eyes, look into the soul, look into the power of darkness, because that darkness is what controls individuals. The reason I'm doing this lesson today is because that darkness is getting stronger. That pit, that superficial pit that is opened, and we know that it is a metaphorical meaning, symbolic meaning in Revelation 9. Please, when you have time, take a look at it. Because in that same chapter, you'll look, once you're reading, you'll look and say and see that the dark entities, the dark forces are controlling men and women. So where's the pit reside? I ask you. We went through it. Will you be able to see the entities in the pit when it opens? And where is it? Very interesting stuff. Colossians 1:13. We're almost done here. Colossians 1:13. Let's see here. Let me see what Colossians has to say. And it states, who delivered us from the power of darkness. Didn't we just read that? Darkness has power. And has translated us into the kingdom of his dear son. Isn't that where you want to be? I know I want to be there. And I want to start today. Power of darkness. Darkness has power. Are we getting this yet? Darkness controls people if you let it. It is our job not to let it. And how do we do that? We have our armor. Do you really believe that individuals that are encapsulated, who are endowed with this darkness, read their armor of light scriptures? My job is hopefully that this lesson will fall upon a deaf ear, even with that one soul that will watch this and say, what is the armor of light? That's all that needs to be said. What is it? That is a seed that's planted. That is a seed that we all should be planting in all of the ears of the blind. And let's go into our last scripture of the day. And we know what that is. Ephesians 6:12. Ephesians 6:12. And we know what's going to go on here. Ephesians 6:12. Now, this has to do, because even I fall into this situation where I think I'm fighting humans. And it is what resides right behind our visual acuity. We don't have the sense to see these things, and praise the Father in heaven that we do not. Because I think if we did have that perception still able to see into that spectrum, we would not be able to muster. We would not be able to muster it. So thank the Father. I praise you forever for that. Let's start with 11. Ephesians. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Pretty self-explanatory. Let's go to 12. For we wrestle not, please circle not, against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers. We just read into powers. Against the rulers, please underline rulers, of the darkness of this world, which means age, against spiritual wickedness in high places. High meaning heavenly places. There are people that rule darkness. There are entities that rule darkness. That darkness that enters into souls allows that soul to be commandeered. For what amount of time? Allows that soul to be taken forcefully to a pit. You know, every time I think about these scriptures, an old movie comes into my mind, which is the movie with Patrick Swayze called Ghost. There was I think I was reading a program, or I was listening to a testimony of an individual who was a former witch, and then they came out and now they're a Christian or what have you. Either way, this individual stated that the same scene, and we know what scene I'm talking about, the dark entities that came to take the soul of the man to the pit. They stated that the same way that the rendition of that scene is actually how it happens. If this is true, I don't know. But I always thought it very, very interesting that they were able to depict the individual that was evil and his soul getting taken by dark entities into a place where the dark entities reside. This is something that's always stayed with me. But either way, whether it be real or not, we know that our scriptures are real. And we just went through the scriptures on how darkness is active right now today, and how to stay out of that darkness by putting on our armor of light. We have it every single day. Okay, so that's going to be it for our lesson today, ladies and gentlemen. Kingdom family, I am elated to know that we're close. We are knocking on the door. And who is on the other side? We know. Who is the door? We know. And where does the door lead? We know. We know. Hopefully we know by now. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for sending me your beautiful comments on your prayers. Thank you for, and I'm not only saying just they're saying they're praying. We have individuals, part of our kingdom family, that actually type in the prayers, and I receive them with open arms. I thank you for that. I thank you for, again, all your emails. They are great, and let's keep edifying each other. Let's keep building each other up, because right now I feel it more than ever in my spirit and in my soul that something is changing. Something is on the horizon, and it is a good thing. However, we need to make it through this darkness first. And the only way to make it through that darkness is to invite our shepherd and supreme being into our hearts for him to take that back to his Father, and we could spend an eternal life in existence with one another. Okay? So I'd like to thank you. I'd like to tell you that I love you all. Thank you. I'll see you on the next one.